Hello and welcome to the final episode of this, our fourth season, interviewing the best and emerging hip hop artists, garden interests from homestead to commercial agriculture, and bourbon whiskey distillers. My name is Joe Skibby, and this is Beats, Beds, and Browns. We're pleased to continue our live stream interviews for this, our fourth season, allowing us to interview talented folks from throughout the globe. Our focus will always be Chicagoland, but there are so many talented individuals outside of the region that we'll look to expand our reach. This is the conclusion of our fourth season. Stay tuned for updates on a potential season 4B or additional events, garden trainings, and content opportunities. Let's not forget our mission to distribute 100,000 heirloom seed kits over the next 10 years. We want to introduce people to growing their own food and realizing how easy it is to get started. Whether you've got acres or just a balcony, you can start growing your own food. To date, we've given out over 2,500 seed kits across the country. Currently, you can choose from dill, acorn squash, or pumpkin. Just visit beatsbedsbrowns.com and we'll send you a pack of seeds anywhere in the contiguous 48 states. Tap into our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at BeatsBedsBrowns. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube to get notified of our content releases. And please participate in the comments section throughout our content. We want to hear from you. Welcome to those of you joining us after the live taping. We see you. And now introducing Jess Steward Jr., the spirited soul behind the essence of Alexander James whiskey. In a world where craftsmanship meets passion, Jesse stands as the maestro, orchestrating the symphony of flavors that dance within every bottle. With a blend of artistry and dedication, he's mastered the alchemy of distillation, transforming mere grains into liquid gold that tantalizes the senses and transcends the ordinary. Join us as we delve into the captivating journey of Jesse, where every sip tells a story of perseverance, expertise, and the pursuit of perfection. In the hands of Jesse Jr., whiskey becomes more than a libation, becomes a vessel for storytelling, a tribute to the ingenuity and artistry of his forebears. Through the art of distillation, he channels the essence of his lineage, crafting blends that resonate with depth and complexity, echoing the voices of those who came before him. Join us on a journey through time and tradition as we raise a glass to Jesse Steward Jr., a custodian of heritage, a pioneer of flavor, and a true master of his craft. In every sip of Alexander James whiskey, the legacy lives on, a testament to the enduring spirit of one man and the enduring legacy of family. Whether you're a hip-hop head, gardener, or spirits enthusiast, we welcome you to tune in to satisfy your curiosity about the art of crafting beverages. This episode promises to be a delightful blend of education and entertainment. With that, we'll bring Jesse to the stage. Cheers. And we'll ask you the same question we ask all of our guests. Where you been? Where you at? And where are you going?
Where have I been? I've been, I know this is a hip hop thing. The Biggie Smalls line just popped in my head, been around the world.
Yeah.
But right now I'm currently downtown, hanging out, chilling. Just poured up some 5-year Alexander James bourbon.
Nice.
You said, where have I been? Where am I at? And where am I going? I don't know where I'm going. Now, I would like to think I'm going to the top and making all my dreams come true. But yeah, just representing Chicago, representing my family, and just making my dreams come true every day.
Absolutely. Sometimes the uncharted journeys are the best, and it's always about the journey instead of the destination. So
exactly,
I'm just enjoying the ride, man.
I'm definitely just enjoying the ride, because sometimes when you're too focused on the end product or, where you're trying to go, you kind of lose sight and you don't really enjoy the journey. So that was some advice that somebody, I can't remember who told me, but they just told me, just make sure you just enjoy the journey. Enjoy the now, because we get so caught up in the future sometimes that we forget to enjoy the now.
Yeah. And then we get to the end and we're done. It's like,
right. No pictures, no memories or anything else. So I've definitely been trying my best to just live more in the moment.
Nice. And tell us a little bit about the moment and what brought you here and why whiskey, why now, what happened?
Sure. Well, I started the brand. Well, I launched the brand on my 30th birthday back in October 2021. It's like my 30th birthday gift to myself. Nice. The why behind the brand, Alexander James whiskey. The brand is named Alexander James after my son. That's his first and middle name. The brand was inspired by both of my grandfathers. My parents were high school sweethearts, so naturally Jesse and James became as thick as thieves. They did everything together. More specifically, they were really big whiskey drinkers. They were both vets, both from Arkansas. And whenever those guys got together, everybody would gather around like little kids around a campfire and listening to them tell, families' histories, all of our family's history stories. Just everything came over a glass of whiskey. And one day I kind of had like a light bulb moment. I was sipping some whiskey with those guys. They used to drink Canadian whiskey. At the time, I think I had just really dove into like rye whiskeys. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to make my own whiskey and name it after my son to kind of continue that tradition of storytelling over, whiskey.
That's incredible. I can feel like the vibe as you're sitting there. The lights are getting a little frayed at the edges, and you're taking
Crazy.
all the history.
Crazy stories, funny stories, sad stories. My grandfather Jesse, who passed, who I'm named after, as well as my dad, he passed 2 months before the brand officially launched. But everybody that knew him knew that guy was a riot. He was really funny. He was very brash and blunt. So we got some hilarious stories. Like him and my grandmother were the complete opposite. And he was kind of like the bad boy. He was a rebel. He was like the outlaw. And one day out of nowhere, we were watching like some auto auction on TV. And 57 Bel Air came across the screen. He was like, oh, yeah, I used to have one of those. I used to drag race them. I'm just like, yeah, here we go. Here we go with the fabricated story. And my grandma goes, yeah, I used to sit next to him and I would shift the gears while he raced. And my grandma's like super chill, low key, like the opposite of him. And everybody looked like, wait, what? You were what while he drag raced?
Yeah.
So we got like really cool stories like that over whiskey.
Nice. And 30 years old, I mean, that just seems like an audacious goal to launch
Very
a whiskey
much so.
brand. Tell me about your time and place in your 30s. And obviously you wanted to carry on the family lineage, but that couldn't have been an easy start.
You know what? I don't want to say it was easy, but it wasn't difficult. I'm really big on the law of attraction, and what you think about, you bring about, especially if you kind of write your goals down and you put all the things in play to execute those goals. It's not that bad. But yeah, before my 30th birthday, I was still in my 20s when all of this was kind of coming into fruition. But one day, like I said, I had that idea of doing the whiskey brand. And at like 3 a.m., I just cold emailed like 100 or so distilleries across the country. Only 3 of them got back to me. One of them happened to be in Mount Prospect, and his name was Jesse as well. And I'm like, that's a kind of weird parallel, right? So we're emailing. And he was like, hey, if you can, just stop by the distillery. I'll be there from, 9 or whatever. So I ended up going to the distillery. My son's name was Alexander. His son's name was Alex. I'm like, all right, that's another weird parallel.
Yeah.
And our first visit together, he poured me some of his samples, but we talked about everything but whiskey. We talked about sports. We talked about family, our upbringing, and everything else. So our partnership became extremely organic. And from there, it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, let's talk business. And that's kind of just how everything got going. And, as time progressed, whiskey aged, I got a little antsy. I wanted, originally all my whiskey was aged 3 years. But I'm like, man, I want to do something cool for my 30th birthday. I had everything ready to go, bottle design. I'm like, you know what? It's my 30th birthday. Fuck it. I'm going to drop this whiskey brand. So I did like a soft launch for family and friends, and the reception was just amazing. So I ended up putting it on the market, and almost 3 years later, here we are.
That's incredible. And I definitely want to delve into the business side of that and the journey in launching. But first, shout out to Jesse at Two Eagles. We interviewed Jesse, and he's connected.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that's my guy.
Other folks, but the same experience. We went and walked the facility and had conversations about everything but whiskey, and whiskey was just kind of in the background. So
he's a great guy. Like really, really, literally every time we talk, for the first 20 minutes, it's everything but business. Like, oh yeah, I called you because we need to bottle XYZ. It's like, oh yeah, that is why we have each other's numbers, and but yeah, he's a really great guy.
So, of the one or of the three of hundreds that you called, talk to me about some of those challenges and the rejection potentially. Everybody's busy, but you would think, I want to work with you. Is it something that would get a call back? And talk to me about some of those challenges and how finding Jesse was the right fit.
Sure. Well, like I said, only 3 got back to me. One of them was somewhere I can't even remember where, and the other one just flat out said, "No, we're not interested." So it's kind of like me and Jesse just kind of fell. We fell into each other's lap, for lack of better terms. It's like it just happened where he was the one that did reply, and after him, I didn't have to look any further because just when we met, it was like, you know what, this kind of feels like destiny. It feels right. From the parallels of our sons' names, our name, our love for and passion for sports, and just him being able to kind of buy into my vision and really see um, something years out, a long time out of what I was trying to do. So that was really cool, and that it made that part so much easier because I feel like if we didn't, hit it off so well, and I had to search for other people who I was entertaining, other distilleries or whatever, it probably wouldn't have been this easy. So it definitely was easy, and it might have been a blessing in disguise that nobody got back to me
Yeah,
because it made this part of the journey extremely easy.
I'm a firm proponent of never swimming against the grain or never swimming
Mm,
upstream, right? There's enough
hmm.
fish going the same direction that I
It
am that we
is.
can make it happen.
Yep.
It's crazy to me because, I tell everybody we're not an expert in any of the three things. We're learning more. We're trying to collect information. And we talked to a gentleman earlier in season 4, Paul Coughlin at Taconic Distillery in the East
Hmm.
Coast. And
Hmm.
his whole point was, you could run your still and you could turn gin and vodka quickly. You could get a profit going, but to get the bourbon and whiskey, it's 3, 5, potentially longer.
Hmm.
Talk to me about the business decisions that went into that, the passion around whiskey versus the quick buck, and how you ended
Sure.
up moving forward.
Well, as I stated, my grandfathers were into whiskey. My dad and his best friend became like really well. They got super into cigars. So at the time, they were drinking tequila, and I kind of, for whatever reason, started drinking scotch. So I convinced those guys to drink scotch. So went down a rabbit hole of like different scotches. And I have a really good friend, Julian Smith, who works for Brown Foreman. Every time he came to my house, he would bring over a different bourbon. And I didn't really think about it. And I'm like, oh, cool, Old Forester, oh, a single barrel Jack Daniels. And every time he brought, I'm like, whoa, this bourbon stuff is pretty cool. Because the only bourbons I would drink at the time was like Jim Beam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But every time Julian came over, he would bring me a different bourbon. So I would go to Benny's every Friday and pick out 2 or 3 different whiskeys. And I realized I like rye whiskey. So I would lean towards, the heavier rye bourbons or rye whiskey. So that's kind of how I shape my profile for my whiskey. I love rye whiskey. So my bourbons are heavy rye, and then my award-winning rye whiskey is just phenomenal. So that's kind of how I shaped my, my profile and what taste and everything I was going for as far as a
And it
liquid.
was obviously made sense to do contract distilling, and you presented
Yeah, it's
still.
pricey. It's super pricey to open up your own distillery. I don't. I'm learning, and I've learned, and I'm still learning the process of distillation and everything. By no means am I an expert. I think I do have a pretty good palate, but yeah, I'm definitely learning. I learn from Jesse and Matt at Two Eagles all the time. Um, what was your question again? I'm sorry, I'm going on the side tangent.
Yeah, just in terms of deciding to go contract
Oh
distill, you
yeah, yeah, for sure.
selecting a mash bill and presenting it to them, and
Yeah, that part was kind of easy because, like I said, I didn't have the capital. I don't have any partners or investors, so that part was like yeah, I think this is the best way to do it. And I was thinking from a sense of low risk, high reward. Worst case scenario, it flops and I have whiskey to drink for how many years? Best case scenario
something I
is,
like anyways, right?
it picks up a little steam, people like it, and we go from there. And luckily, it was the latter.
Nice. So post 30th birthday, you're launched. Talk to me about that process and the slow grind, I imagine, to get in stores and get into establishments. And
Definitely a slow grind. And I love that approach of slow grinds. A lot of people want the overnight success. I don't think I don't want to say it's not real, but that's not me. I like enjoying the journey, the process, the long days. I still have a full-time job. So I do that on top of the whiskey. So I enjoy all of it. I do have a lot of really long days, but I enjoy every second of it. But my official launch was, like I said, the launch party, October 15th, 2021. October 30th was my first day on market at Kimbark Beverage store in High Park. It was black owned, so that was very strategic of me to release it there first. With me being a black owned whiskey brand and them being a reputable and very legendary Black-owned liquor store. I wanted to sell there first, so did a tasting, and the GM Henry was like, "Hey, just bring a couple cases, and whatever you sell through, we'll buy it." So I was there for like 3 hours, and the first like 30 minutes, I probably sold like 10 bottles, and he was looking like, what? Like he tasted it, he liked the whiskey, and at the time it was just my 3-year bourbon. He was like, "What are you saying to these people?" So he kind of just like stepped back and watched. But I think when people heard the story, saw the presentation, saw the bottle, and got a chance to try the liquid, it just was like by the end of the day, I think I went through like I think I sold like 40 something bottles, and he was like, that usually doesn't happen. So he was like, "We're cool. We're putting it on the shelves." Boom, that was that. The next door was Matson Liquors. I have a really good relationship with them. And then after Matson, I got an email from Benny. So to backtrack a little bit, I have goals. My 6-month goal was to get on Benny's radar, pitch to them, "Hey, I'm this local owned brand. I built this buzz. I want to be in a couple of your stores." After 2 weeks, after that Matson Liquors tasting, kind of similar experience as Kembark, the buyer at Benny's reached out and said, "Hey, we've been hearing about your product. Some of my people tried it. How would you like to be sold in Benny's?" I'm like, or no, I think he asked, "Do you want to be sold in Benny's?" I'm like, hell yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. So after 2 weeks on the market, I got like I think a 15 or 18 store Benny's distro, which is crazy because in Illinois, Benny's is like the NBA of liquor stores. So that was really cool. And that since then has just been kind of a snowball effect of just steam, full force ahead with, different accounts picking it up and different stores picking it up.
And again, not your full-time job. We tapped on the overnight success concept. We talk about that with artists a lot. You're
Mm-hmm.
building, and
Mm-hmm.
you're just prepared for that moment when it hits. It seems like your moment hit pretty early.
Super early, like way faster than I thought. I knew the brand would do well because I'm very confident in my liquid. I'm very confident in my presentation, my story, and myself. But I didn't know it was gonna be like this. I had no clue. Between October and December, it was just a whirlwind of like, with the Bennies and other stores and restaurants. It was nuts. And then the first glimpse of like it really like taking off. Every February, I do a limited edition Black History Month bottle. Well, I'll release 100 limited bottles, and once they sell out, I don't repeat that bottle design. And my first Black History Month, I sold 100 bottles in 2.5 hours, and I'm just like, this can't be real. Like this, I don't want to get used to this because it's not realistic. I was almost doubting myself, but that was like the first glimpse of like, dude, you really might be on to something. The reception was just like crazy. People from all over the city were coming out to get the bottle. People were lined up outside. I'm just like, okay, cool.
And how did you promote that? How did you generate that type of buzz?
Social media. Social media has been my best friend. I purposely, very strategically, I didn't want to pay for marketing in my first 2 years pretty much because I just wanted my following and my customers to be very organic. I don't think it's anything wrong with putting, bottles in celebrities' hands, but my personal opinion is with that, I feel like, people buy it once because they saw somebody with it, but they don't come back. I want you to like the product for itself. I want you to like the story. I want you to like it, you know, for you because you like it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did it that way. I went that route because I do have people that have the original Black History Month bottle, that have the original bottle, like, "Hey, you signed this bottle for me back in 2021, and it's at the top of my bar. I won't let anybody touch it." That's what I resonate with, and that's what means the world to me. So I'm really glad that I took that approach.
Can you talk a little bit about a renaissance in African American distillers throughout the country,
Hmm.
and obviously the big story, Uncle Nearest, and
Sure,
taking
sure.
their Braun Fawn Weaver's doing a great job over there. But
She's phenomenal. I'm not sure if you saw it today, but Chicago Sun-Times released an article
I did,
about
yeah,
myself
Renard and
and
Bull Run, yeah.
Yep. So that was really cool to see because there's not a lot of us. So that kind of just let me know that the tide is definitely changing for minorities in the spirits industry because we don't make up a lot of the industry, although we consume a lot of it. But yeah, just me being able to be a part of that wave and kind of gain some momentum has been phenomenal. Seeing Fawn and what she's doing is definitely motivation. I think they're at like 900 something $1 million in sales in
She's
7 years,
vineyards
which is
overseas. She's conquering the world over there.
her game plan and her team, they're on point.
Yeah.
I definitely take notes. She's a really good friend of mine. Every once in a while, she'll shoot me a message or shoot me a text like, hey, I see you, keep doing what you're doing, proud of you. So hearing somebody like that and seeing what she's doing, and for her to know who I am and I'm on her radar, and for her to give me words of wisdom is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, that's priceless. And talk to me about the collegial environment around that. And again, when we interview artists that week, we're like digging deep, and we were doing research on you and the industry, and things like Pronghorn that are
Hmm.
established to kind of foster development, and
Exactly.
talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, funny story about Pronghorn is they reached out to me shortly after my launch, and to be honest, I told them this, so it's no secret. I thought it was like a scam. Like, this doesn't sound right. So I completely blew them off. But as the year progressed, I think I had made it past my 1 year, and I think I saw it somewhere, and I'm like, okay, this might be legit. Let me hear what they have to say. But after meeting their team via Zoom and just having taken calls and stuff with them, and to see the other brands on the portfolio, like they really do care about, innovating and giving, my Black-owned spirits a fair shot by giving us resources, giving funds, and just giving visibility that a lot of us really wouldn't get or have the opportunity to garner. So Pronghorn is amazing. They're backed by Diageo, who's a huge supplier
Yeah.
group. Um, yeah, so Pronghorn, they're definitely just giving opportunity and resources to people like me to, take this thing to the next level, because I don't think I would have the resources that I have now and build the relationships without Pronghorn.
Yeah, no, incredible statistics. I think on
Hmm.
their website that African American consumers consume alcohol at the same pace.
Exactly.
They're like 2% of the production market, so it's
Exactly. Hmm.
long overdue in terms of supporting that industry and building it. And kudos to you and the team at Pronghorn for
Yeah,
making that
they're
happen.
definitely pushing that agenda, and just I'm not sure how many people are on the portfolio now, but I've got a chance to meet everybody. And you were talking about the collegiate, just like the camaraderie with everybody. A lot of people I met before I was even on the portfolio, and like we're all friends. We all shoot each other texts. We all reshare each other's posts. I saw a couple people with the post of the Chicago Sun Times article. My phone is buzzing every 2 seconds, but a lot of people in the portfolio, you just hit me up saying, congratulations, very proud of you. Keep going. Little words of encouragement and wisdom and advice, and just I think it's really cool because I'm a former athlete. I still have really good ties and bonds with people that I played sports with when I was 5 years old, 15 years old, college, and everything else. So I think it's cool to see people doing the same thing, look from the same background, look like me, and we're able to bond and relate and help each other in this industry that we're not really represented in. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's vitally important, especially with the Uncle Nearest story and the backstory with Jack Daniels, and you've
Hmm.
always been there, right? So it's time
Exactly.
to get your flowers, and kudos again
Hmm.
to you and the
Hmm.
other representatives. So, talk to me about your current product line and the things that you're currently selling, and then
Hmm.
maybe what's your long term vision.
Sure. So right now I have a grand total of 4 SKUs. My two flagship products are my 4 year straight bourbon and my 4 year rye whiskey. Twice a year I'll release a barrel proof bourbon. Well, it was once a year. The reception has been so good. I'm like, I guess I'll do it twice a year. So probably every February, every October, I'll release the barrel proof. And then last October was my first year filling some 5 year barrels, and that got a really good reception. So I'm guessing I'll do the 5 year once a year until I can age it out, and maybe get some 8 year stuff. So that's the ultimate goal. My oldest stuff I think is around 6 years. So I'm trying to let it sit and get some 8 year stuff.
I mean, that's
And
4D chess to be thinking out 3, 4, 5, 8 years, not using all your product to push the immediate sales, but then building
Mhm.
into longer term.
It's definitely tough. Forecasting it has been something very interesting. I don't want to say difficult, but interesting, because you're forecasting something that you don't really know. With me only being on the market almost 3 years, it's hard to forecast for something, a
Let's
product that you never
last
put
year.
out.
What's
Like,
our
how do
5 year
like
trend? We don't know.
exactly? I don't have a 5 year trend yet, so it's been very interesting and very cool at the same time. Sometimes stressful trying to figure out, man, how many bottles how many bottles do I need to get printed? How many bottles, how many barrels do I need to pull to get bottled and everything else? So that's been a science that it's been fun. Sometimes I get down to the wire. It's like, all right, I need to get this stuff bottled ASAP, so I'm not, shorting anybody. But that part is really cool. The forecasting part, like I said, is very challenging. But
Sure.
looking into the
Get,
future
more
is cool.
accurate your projections will become. And
Exactly. But it's fun thinking about the future. I do the specialty bottles. I don't know if you saw the Chicago bottle that I released in March.
yeah,
As you see, I got a Sox hat on. I always represent Chicago any way that I can. And I just want to pay homage and show some love to the city that I love dearly. So I released 300 Chicago bottles. It has a skyline on the front, Chicago flag. You can kind of see it through the back. So that was something that was super cool to do. So I do those limited bottle runs. So that's something that my product might not change too much, but the specialty bottles will definitely be here to add some fun, a little flair, and do things that I don't really see too many spirit brands do.
sure. Yeah, you're going to move spirits, but any type of collective angle, we've all
For
seen
sure.
people's whole cabinets filled, and give them a reason to
For
buy
sure.
more, right?
Yeah. And something that's really cool that I kind of hinted at is the next year will be my 4th year doing the Black History Month bottle. So if you have all 4 of the bottles, I'm doing a special dinner. If you show me, they don't even have to be filled up, but if you have all of the bottles, I
Yeah.
have a special dinner plan with some cool things. If you have, 3 of the 4, I got something for you. If you got 2 of the 4, then I have something for you. So that's just my way to kind of keep people into it, build a little hype, a little buzz, and let people know like this isn't in vain. You invested in me, 3-4 years ago, and you had the wherewithal to keep this bottle. When I told you, like, hey, open it, cool. If I were you, not trying to, boost my sales, but I would get one regular bottle and one specialty bottle. That way you can sip one and put that one on your bar, because I will hope that it becomes a collector's item one day and you can use it as collateral to trade up for something else that you like. Or I think it'd be really cool to see people have the entire set.
Yeah, no, I love that whole concept just from a marketing standpoint and
Hmm.
communication and brand affinity. And
Hmm.
not only that, but then, supporting our small business owners to be able to say you were there from the start. And that's important.
Exactly. And that means the world to me.
Um, so this is a part-time gig, man. I mean, talk to me.
No, it's a full-time gig.
So
I have
you're
three.
working 2 full-time gigs. Yeah, yeah.
Three. I have 2 kids. I had a
Oh,
6-year-old and a 2-year-old.
I
That's a
believe it.
full-time job in itself. So yeah, I'm the airport operations supervisor at O'Hare. I'm the founder and CEO of Alexander James Whiskey, and I have 2 beautiful, lovely kids that
Man,
are also a full-time job.
yeah, no doubt. So not too much time for gardening, I take it.
No. You know what? I would love to. I do not have a green thumb. I cut my grass, I edge, and that's about it. But I'm very fascinated by the browns.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And you were talking about starting with the Jim Beam and progressing into the
Hmm.
different
Hmm.
allocations and
Hmm.
bottled and bond and different proof whiskeys.
Hmm.
It's incredible that something from the same components can have such a varied flavor. And, again, talking with other distillers and the lineage, heirloom seed varieties and corns that go into these
Crazy.
things, and how drought affected grains taste different and produce, whether it's plum or green apple. And man,
Insane, right? Isn't
yeah,
it cool? So I'm not one to only drink Alexander James. I like to dive into other things. I'm a nerd. I've become a spirits nerd. Like um I've dove into wines. I'm kind of getting back into cognacs now. Well, I'm getting into cognacs and learning about eau de vie and everything like that. So I'm super fascinated. Shout out to Alexis Brown. She's the reason why I'm into that.
nice.
But yeah, like it's just fascinating. Just like you said, the process of distillation and the different grains and fruits that go into different spirits. Like I'm starting to like gin out of nowhere. I didn't like gin, but it's just really fascinating. Like I said, I really nerd out at learning about different brands and learning about different distillation processes and the different grains and how the soil and the water and the yeast and all of that plays a role in your end product. So it's super cool.
Nice. And absolutely, as the tourism value of distillers
Yes.
increases, you talk about differentiating and having those different stories behind each of the different distilled spirits. Um,
Right.
Down the road, Do you see yourself evolving into distilling your own product? Do you see yourself in the tourist?
100%.
Yeah,
Yes, 100%. That is the ultimate goal. It wasn't the goal, to be honest with you up front. It wasn't a goal of mine, but for selfish reasons, I want to do it. Kind of selfish goals, not even monetary type goals. But there aren't a lot of black-owned distilleries, so we just kind of put that up front too. I want to be one of the ones that can help get that done, as well as help other people bring their spirit brands to life, through, me and the work that I've put in, to kind of just make it easier for the next one, each one teach one approach, I just want to, obviously every generation should try to make it easier for the next. So the things that I'm doing and the reputation I've built, I'm hoping that that'll make it for the next brand that comes behind me, where they're like, all right, well, we saw Jesse. Jesse was a stand-up guy. He has a great product. They'll give somebody a chance, because that is the horror story that I heard when I first got into the industry, that, a lot of people don't give small brands a chance because of, whatever reason. But I think if, more craft distillers and, smaller brands are doing their thing and making it successful, the bigger brands, the bigger accounts, the bigger distributors, they won't be as hesitant to work with the smaller guy because of the people before.
sure. Look at the craft beer industry and how that flipped big
And
breweries.
now, yeah,
Yeah,
I had a gumball head earlier, and I didn't even think about any of the major brands. And I think Three Floyds is pretty big now.
yeah,
But yeah, like, I think that's awesome to see the swap of, it was what, maybe two or three big players in the beer world, and then, like you said, we have all the craft breweries doing their thing. A couple of them from Chicago, really good friends of mine, and that's really cool to see.
yeah. And even you mentioned Three Floyds; they're into distilling now, and you've got
Oh,
18th
wow, I
Street
didn't know that.
Brewery locally.
Yeah, I know 18th Street.
Is the distiller? Yeah, we drew over there. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, it's fascinating. So, you've listed a number of different ways that you stand out. Not only with your rye heavy production, but then the
Hmm.
different collectors items that you have. Um,
Hmm.
how what has been the biggest challenge in gaining awareness and getting in stores and making that leap?
Um, the biggest challenge is, I think I don't have like a marketing budget like a lot of the bigger brands. I think that's something that in hindsight that I would have. Remember, I said earlier that I didn't want to pay for marketing up front. I don't regret it, but I wish I did put a little more time and effort into that part, to be transparent. That's very important. I see a lot of big brands. I didn't realize the budget that they have in marketing and point of sale items. Like, that's huge, because brand recognition is everything. So, just my goal is just make my brand something. When you see this logo, you know exactly what it is, where it's from, and what you're getting in that product.
Yeah, no, a wonderful history and a bright future for sure. Um, you know, I see, that you're working at O'Hare as an airport operations supervisor. You've founded the Chicago Allegiance of Blacks in Aviation.
I did.
How did aviation enter the picture? Was that another family lineage
It
or?
it was. My dad was in the Air Force, and he was an aircraft mechanic for 30 years for American Airlines. So, I was a collegiate track athlete. I was a 2 to 3 star football recruit, and I was a really good track athlete. So, during all my college visits, my parents told me, whatever school you go to, we're not going to waste our time. You need to have a 4 year college plan. If you go to this school, what's your major going to be? What is your your career path? And um, I had interest from Purdue University, and on the way to that visit, no, I'm sorry, I was going to Missouri, but Purdue had just like reached out, and my dad was like, "Hey, I have a friend that's an air traffic controller," and I think me and him were kind of having a conversation at the time. I was stressed out, like, man, I think I want to be a lawyer, but I don't want to be in school that long. He was like, "I'm like, Dad, I want to be like you. You're my hero. I look up to you. I want to be a mechanic." He's like, "Nah, man, it gets cold. I get dirty every day. How about air traffic control?" And he had, at the time, I think, just read an article about how by the time I graduated from school, a lot of the baby boomers would have to retire.
Yeah.
He was like, so, do some research and tell me what you think. So we were on our way to like Missouri or something for a college visit. And he was like, hey, I have a friend that works in the tower at O'Hare. Do you want to go just check it out? And that guy took me up in the tower, and I just fell in love with it. Like, the fast paced environment. It just gave me like a thrill that sports gave me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to do air traffic control. So sure enough, I took the visit to Purdue the following weekend, and they were one of the best air traffic control schools in the country. And I'm like, oh, well, that's it. And so that's kind of how I got into air traffic control. Left Purdue to finish at Lewis University out in Romeoville, where I got my degree in air traffic control management. And I love air traffic control, but I think it kind of will marginalize me and my personality. So I worked at UPS as an aircraft load planner for a year. Then I moved to UPS Freight for a year and some change as pretty much an assistant terminal manager. And then I got back into aviation with the role that I'm in now, and I'm on my 8th year. So the crazy thing is the job that I'm in now was I told you I'm really goal oriented. So I would have my vision board. And when I was in college, it was air traffic control for 10 years, airport operations, the rest of my tenure before I retired. And I think God had it, had something different for me and said, nah, we're going to skip air traffic control. We're going to go straight to airport operations. So it's pretty cool because I saw a picture of my phone maybe about a week ago of my vision board back in 2012. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy that I'm doing the job that, I wanted to do 20 years from now.
Yeah. No, that's incredible, especially, and one of the main reasons why putting stuff on paper really pays dividends is because you can see, on path, ahead of path, or if you're straight from the path, right? That's there's often a lot of times
it's really cool.
We get rolled. So I understand, distilling nerd, and I'm right behind you and trying to figure out all this, and, not enough time to garden. Understand that as well. Talk to me about
I'm going to get into it.
Well, when you're in your free time, right? Yeah. Talk to me about your relationship with music and the types of music you listen to and what you enjoy.
Music has such an influence on my life. It's crazy. From little things of like me, remember being a kid in the car with my parents, in our commute, going to work with them or road trips, the songs that we listen to. I have like vivid memories. Like I can smell the outside. I can like feel being in the car, but music has a huge role in my life. I'm a huge, I like R&B, but I'm on a go. So R&B slows me down too much. So huge hip hop guy. One of my favorite rappers is Currency. He's inspired me a lot because he's an underground guy. He had an opportunity to kind of be mainstream, but he chose the slow grind, the slow and steady approach, which I think that might be, I'm realizing now that might be why that's my approach of, taking it slower and not trying to be an overnight success, because now he's, he kind of started a genre of music and he's pretty big. I know he's making money now. So huge Currency fan, huge Jay-Z fan. But I feel like every stage of my life, I have like a soundtrack. Yeah. It's like my childhood. I remember certain music, something that I finally admitted to my mom. My mom would be like, do not play Too Short in the car with my kids. As soon as I got in the car with my dad, please play Too Short. So little things like that. But I have certain songs that I feel like are theme music to every stage of my life. Sure. Like high school, I was heavy into Wale, Currency. Who else was I listening to in high school? Like super hip hop. I was super into hip hop. And then as I got older, I did kind of fall into, I don't want to say mainstream rap, but I like rap. I love R&B. I love old school music. So usually on Sundays, I try not to listen to rap. I listen to music from the 70s, stuff that, my parents will play in the house cleaning up on Saturdays or Sundays, stuff that my grandparents will play on their record player. So, I have a little bit of everything, but like I said, everything kind of has some kind of soundtrack. I'm a big car enthusiast. I like old cars. So if I'm in, one of my old schools, I'm not, whatever year that car is, I'm listening to something from that year. So I have a 98 Corvette. And when I got that car, I found every album from 1997 and 98 that I like, from the Education of Lauryn Hill to Life and Times of Sean Carter Volume 1, Hot Boys, Guerrilla Warfare, like all that. It's hilarious. I have all of my favorite albums from 1998, the actual physical CD that I bought, the brand new. So nice. That's the influence of music on my life. Sometimes, depending on my mood, if I know I need to get in hustle mode, I have a playlist with a $, and it's all of my, my Larry June, my Currency, my Jay-Z's, my Drakes, all of those songs that it's motivation. Like, hey, you gotta get to it. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I love that soundtrack of life concept because it's different music for different moments.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's I parallel that the way
Yeah,
I
it's like a moment of time. Like you know exactly where you were. Like when you heard this song, you could probably you remember what you ate that day. Like sometimes it's that specific for me. Like I remember exactly where I was, who I was with, what I was wearing when I heard this song for the first time.
that's nice. That's really cool. Well, we're rounding third here, and I want to make sure you share your socials and anything you guys
Sure.
got coming up and any promotions that we can get the word out in.
Sure. Well, I'm wrapping up a deal with one of the bigger distributors in the country. So starting off in Illinois, so that's going to be something really big for me. My reach is going to expand. So people that are in Illinois that they feel like they can't get their hands on Alexander James, you will definitely be able to get your hands on that. As far as what I have coming up, just a lot of events, happy hours, tastings. I'm not doing any specialty bottles anytime soon, but when I do, I'm gonna do like a little shock drop where it's gonna be like, "Hey, Easter egg, go to this store right now. It's only a couple, X amount of bottles. Go get it." Um, but yeah, just going to continue to grow the brand, expand my reach, make my name, and make my product, out there. As far as socials, Alexander James Whiskey is Instagram and Facebook, www.alexanderjameswhiskey.com, where you can find everything Alexander James Whiskey as far as accounts that carry it, drink recipes, and everything else I have coming up. My personal social media, my Instagram is Wonton Stew1, WONTONSTEW1. Funny story behind that, which is it's related to music, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
The rapper Lil B had his wave earlier. That had to be 2010, and he has a song called Wonton Soup. And my last name is Stew, so I'm like, oh, Wonton Soup, Stew. That's a cool play on words. So, I think maybe Twitter had just came out, so that became my Twitter handle, and then eventually
Nice.
when Instagram came out, that was that. But yeah, those are my socials. I post anything happening in my life for the most part. I'm a sneaker fanatic. I'm a car enthusiast, and obviously I love whiskey. So just a little glimpse of my life on all of my socials.
Yeah, absolutely. And we couldn't appreciate your time more. We're going to go ahead and pull you off to the green room, close out the show, and then I like to cut it up for a couple minutes offline if you got a couple minutes.
Yeah, cool. I really appreciate you having me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Go grab some Alexander James, and when you do, make sure you always make a toast to the legacy.
Awesome. Let's cheers to the legacy. Where we at? There you go. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. All right, that was Jesse Steward Jr. at Alexander James Whiskey. Incredible family story and incredible growth with small business while he's continuing to not only be a father but grow his own profession. We couldn't appreciate his time more. In closing, Beats Beds and Browns is an ag advocacy brand focused on educating people on how to eat healthy, sustainably, and inexpensively. Start your gardening journey today and grab your free seed kit at beatsbedsbrowns.com. You can listen to our thoughts via our video podcast on YouTube and or your streaming venue of choice. Follow our progress on your social media of choice with the hashtag 100K in 10 years or directly via at BeatsBedsBrowns. Happy planting, guys.